With the new season of Pokemon Champions now out and it available on mobile devices, we finally have a bunch of new Mega Evolutions. And some of them even got buffed. Mega Sceptile now learns Earth Power, which gives it a super effective move on Pokemon like Aegislash. It also means Heatran better watch out when it eventually comes to the game. And they gave Mega Swampert an absolutely huge nuke in Wave Crash. There's a few other buffs and nerfs to talk about for these Mega Pokemon, so let's get right into it. I'm excited to talk about the buffs for the returning Megas in Pokemon Champions. Let me know your thoughts down below, and if you do enjoy it, feel free to subscribe. No pressure. I'm on my way to 500,000 subs, and you can help me get there, but like I said, don't feel like you need to. Anyway, we'll start off with Mega Sceptile. Mega Sceptile now has access to Earth Power. This is big. It gives Sceptile a means of dealing with Pokemon like Aegislash as well as Heatran. Previously, you had Focus Blast, which would always hit Pokemon like Ferrothorn as well, which are currently not in the game. But it would not, I said always hit, but I meant like it was a target. Not that you'd always, Focus Blast, we ain't ever hitting. But Earth Power, obviously you give up that super effective coverage on Ferrothorn, but it allows you 4 times effective coverage on a Pokemon like Heatran that would otherwise deal with you, especially if they were special defensive. And they could 2-shot you with their fire move no matter what. Whereas you had to pray you hit 2 Focus Blasts into them upon switching. So Earth Power is amazing in that regard. Also hitting Aegislash I think is huge, which otherwise walled its dual stab. I want to put Shed Tail there, even though Sceptile has had Shed Tail for a little bit now. But Mega Sceptile never had access to Shed Tail. So it's always a cool move that it can use to basically baton pass, a big substitute in a sense with no stats to its target. I do like this. Another thing that Sceptile ended up getting was Dragon Rush, which is not too great for physical, maybe if you're running it with gravity. And of course, Mega Sceptile does have access to Swords Dance Scale Shot as an option. Again, Sceptile has had this for a bit, but I did want to highlight basically Earth Power, Shed Tail, and of course Scale Shot with the Swords Dance set. As opposed, like it may be the potential 3v3 Battle Stadium as an option. Of course, 6v6 if you're playing with it. Now, Mega Swampert now has access to Wave Crash. An incredibly strong, I mean, y'all know Basculegion, of course, in Pokemon Champions. It is incredibly powerful. It's stronger than its Liquidation, stronger than its Waterfall, and it kind of just gives you a nuke onto opposing Pokemon. Just to show you the damage difference, and this is on Jolly Swampert, it could definitely be adamant if you really want to, but Jolly Swampert's Wave Crash in the Rain to max HP Mega Floette does 106 to 124%. So most neutral targets are either falling over or taking so much damage. Obviously, in Garchomp's case, you can use Ice Punch, but a Wave Crash would also OHKO a non-max HP Garchomp in the Rain. Again, Ice Punch is definitely there as well. Flip Turn is also big. Swampert again has had Flip Turn for a little bit now, but being able to provide momentum is cool. I'm not entirely sure where you put this on Swampert, right? Because I think you want your Wave Crash. If you want to do massive damage, I think Wave Crash is going to allow you to do that, right? You either want your Earthquake or your High Horsepower for either your single or your double target damage. And then you want probably Ice Punch, right? In a metagame with Dragons, a metagame with Garchomp, I feel like it makes sense to have Ice Punch just as a means of hitting that. It also allows you to hit Sinistcha. So what do you do last? Do you end up doing Protect or do you end up doing Flip Turn? So I think Flip Turn is pretty cool. I'm not entirely sure if it's going to be ran on most Swamperts. I feel like why not just pair Swampert with Basculegion and have them both just be doing Wave Crashes and Flip Turn out with Basculegion if your choice Scarf in that regard. But Wave Crash is obviously big, and of course I wanted to highlight Flip Turn. Mega Blaziken actually got nerfed. It had Drain Punch in Pokemon Legends ZA, and then they took it away. Now, Drain Punch might not be the biggest nerf just because you're hitting with that 160 attack anyway, so you don't necessarily need recovery, but I would have loved to see one of the options with Bulk Up plus Drain Punch Mega Blaziken, especially when you compare this thing with either potential Sunny Day Sableye or Sinistcha just to heal it as well, and especially if you're using something like Flare Blitz, which is already doing damage. So I would have really liked to see this. Obviously, for the most part, Blaziken is just going to be Swords Dancing or just through attack. Like, you could definitely get away with Close Combat, Flare Blitz, and then Stone Edge to hit Pokemon like Mega Charizard Y, at least in a doubles perspective. And in a singles perspective, this Pokemon's not gonna come to whatever OU it's allowed in. But I think Bulk Up Drain Punch would have given a lot of free stats to work with, because Mega Blaziken obviously has that plus 10 defense and special defense, whereas regular Blaziken is 70-70. So being able to actually have that recovery, I think would have been really nice for Blaziken, and you could have definitely messed around EVs, because I think it has the EV spread where, like, because you have base 160 attack, it's like a Pokemon you don't necessarily need to get max attack in, at least in a doubles perspective, in my honest opinion. So Metagross got a pretty big nerf, right? Got a pretty big nerf. I'll talk about the buff. Metagross now learns Cosmic Power again. It actually had it and then it lost it. So Cosmic Power is going to be raising its defense and special defense. You might be thinking, well, why does that matter? Well, in doubles OU of Generation 8, which is a metagame where you can play doubles, but you actually can use all 6 instead of just pick 4. Regular Metagross would frequently use Cosmic Power, Body Press, Protect, and then whatever coverage move you want as your last attack. And obviously Cosmic Power would be boosting Body Press, and Body Press would still be Tough Claws. Well, in this case, it would be Tough Claws boosted, which is a pretty big, nice thing for Metagross. It didn't have Body Press before. And it would just make it really difficult to deal with, and you just pair it with partners that could either Heal Pulse, Life Dew, or do things like that. So in this case, obviously, you pair it with Sinistcha, and you'd be able to healing and doing that. I think that's a pretty cool buff for it. Of course, Metagross already had that for a bit, but now, and then it lost it, and now I got it back, so I think that's cool. But the biggest nerf to Mega Metagross is got rid of Heavy Slam and Knockoff. They got rid of your almost always 120 base power steel move. Disgusting. I guess they were like, yeah, this is way too strong on neutral targets. I'm just doing way too much damage, especially when buffed by Tough Claws. And then getting rid of Knockoff is a little sad. Like, this would have been like a nuke for Pokemon like Sinistcha, and just being able to get rid of items. It would have nuked Pokemon like Aegislash. I don't think that means that Metagross is going to be bad in any regards, right? It's still really good, and Meteor Mash is still fine, and you can run Stomping Tantrum and Thunder Punch or Bullet Punch, whatever the hell you want on this Pokemon. It has insane stats as it is. It's 100% going to be a top Mega. It is a top Mega. But losing both Heavy Slam and Knockoff definitely hurts its damage output a lot. Psychic Fangs, I think, is a really nice one that Metagross has that it didn't currently have, or didn't previously have when it was a Mega. But now it does have it. But again, Metagross has had this for a bit. But this is a buff, at least, to Mega Metagross. And just being able to break screens is huge. And also hitting for super effective damage on Pokemon like Sneasler. And just, it's a good neutral target as well on Pokemon like Sinistcha too. So now I'm going to quickly go over the buffs for the Megas that were released in Pokemon Legends ZA and are now in Pokemon Champions, as well as the nerfs for them too. I did a full video on this that's longer, and I'm going to go more in depth. It's already uploaded if you guys want to go and check that out. But I figured, why not pass over them, because I think it makes a lot of sense. So Scolipede, Mega Scolipede lost First Impression, Mortal Spin, and U-Turn. Extremely annoying. Extremely annoying that this Pokemon lost some really cool offensive options, especially based off its 140 attack. A U-Turn for momentum, and then Mortal Spin to obviously threaten people, kind of like Hugumora, just poisoning both targets. I think this would have been really nice in both a singles perspective and a doubles perspective. But of course, in terms of buffs that it got in Legends ZA and that ended up keeping, it does still have Gunk Shot and Leech Life. So this is really cool on like a Swords Dance set, having that added recovery. And again, I'm just kind of speeding through these a little bit because I talked about them really in depth earlier. But Gunk Shot and Leech Life are big. I think the other option that I kind of skipped over was Trailblaze. And considering Trailblaze, considering it's really low speed, obviously you have speed boost prior, but it's kind of hard to get 2 speed boosts with this, or 3. Like even with 2, you're still kind of slower than a lot of Pokemon. So being able to have that Trailblaze to raise your speed, I think, is a nice one. Barbaracle got a beautiful buff in Legends ZA, and luckily it ended up keeping it in Pokemon Champions. So it has close combat now, which is amazing for its Tough Claws fighting type on the Mega set. And then Aqua Cutter, I think, is really a cool option for base Barbaracle with Sniper plus the Scope Lens. Could be really fun with like Cross Chop, Aqua Cutter, Stone Edge. You know, if you're really feeling Night Slash, if you're really feeling like you want to luck. Scrafty got a pretty big nerf from Pokemon Legends Z. I think the most exciting thing that Mega Scrafty got, besides actually getting a Mega, was the fact that it had access to Parting Shot. So it was about to be Incineroar version 2, right? Because it already has Intimidate, it already has Fake Out. Parting Shot would have been cool. Has Knockoff, which Incineroar no longer had. And even had Stab fighting moves on top of that. But they said, no, that is too much, especially because they ended up giving Mega Scrafty Intimidate. So losing your Parting Shot option is extremely extremely wild. Like it's. I mean, I think everybody's like, oh, they're like breathing. It's a sigh of relief, right? They can finally breathe because this would fake out, double intimidate. So the first one you bring it out, and then you Mega Evolve later when you need another intimidate, and then being able to parting shot. And Scrafty is by no means like it's such bulky Pokemon, right? You're only knocking it out for the most part with Moonblast or Dazzling Gleam or whatever fairy moves. Everything else it lives. Is just nasty. And again, I feel myself wanting to go in depth 5 minutes, 6 minutes on every single one of these, but I literally did it in a video this morning, actually. So go ahead and check that out. I'll link it down below as well, or you can just go back to the channel and look. Then they nerfed Mega Malamar. I'm really annoyed about this one. And it basically lost close combat, which it had gotten in Pokemon Legends ZA, which was amazing with Contrary because you close combat and you raise both your defenses. And this paired really well with Mega Malamar because not only was it stronger with base 102 attack, but it also has access to stored power. So being able to go for close combat plus stored power, that was basically your means of boosting both of them. Like Malamar does have access to things like Nasty Plot and stuff like that, but it is Contrary, right? You're going to do the opposite of it. And I guess you can argue, oh, well, you don't have to use Contrary prior to it, right? You can use Infiltrator prior, then do that. I feel like there's not a lot of use there. I didn't think that close combat plus stored power was one of its better things it could do. And they even gave it more speed, so it's a little tougher to use Trick Room on it too. Obviously, you still have Sewer Power, so you can raise your attack and defense, but just losing close combat and the ability to raise both, because I think you can use both close combat and Sewer Power if you really wanted to. It also lost Stealth Rock, which just is viability in draft and BSS that it could have done as a fun little anti-lead with Destiny Bond. Not maybe on Mega Malamar, but on Rega Malamar. Yo, they nerfed Pyroar, which is crazy, right? Because you pull up to the area with Pyroar in Pokemon Legends ZA, and it's Earth Power in the entire thing. I died multiple times in that. It was really fun. But they got rid of Earth Power again, which is your means of hitting Pokemon like Heatran, specifically Heatran and Pokemon like Tyranitar. So those are specifically your targets with that. However, it does still have Scorching Sands. It's just a weaker version of Earth Power, though. I don't even know why they did this. Like, I actually don't even know thematically why they did this. Because, well, I understand why. Sands, right? It's a line. I get it. But, like, I don't understand why they got rid of Earth Power, the whole gist of it. The whole gimmick, rather, was it Earth Powering you in the game. It's just dumb to get rid of a stronger move for a weaker move that burns, because the stronger move can actually KO the Pokemon, whereas the weaker move doesn't. So, and the last one I want to talk about real quick is that they buffed a Mega Staraptor, or Staraptor rather, because it still has access to Roost, and of course we know that Mega Staraptor has Contrary its ability, which is really cool. It has Blaze Kick as well, so it can hit Pokemon like Golden Go and Aegislash. Contrary with close combat plus Roost is really nice, but it did end up losing Knockoff, which is your guaranteed hit on Pokemon like Aegislash and Golden Go. I don't think it's gonna matter too much, and I think just Staraptor getting Roost back is huge, especially for the Contrary set, which is what you're gonna run on it. But it just kind of sucks that it lost Knockoff. But again, I kind of brushed over these pretty quickly. But as I mentioned, the latest video on the channel besides this one is me going through their new abilities and then talking about their actual buffs and going more in depth in what I thought in doubles as well as singles with them. So thank you very much for watching. Let me know your thoughts down below. Feel free to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.